Hi guys, back with me again, Ati Kurniawan Yusuf. In this video, we're gonna learn together about correlation. What is correlation? Correlation is the association or the relationship between two variables. One more time, correlation is the association or the relationship between two variables. It can be strong, it can be moderate or weak, either positively or negatively. Therefore, talking about correlation, we talk about the strength and also the direction of the association. For example, I ask you, what is the correlation between promotional budget and also the sales? To answer this question, we have to have the data of promotional budget and also the sales. We can say that the two variables have positive correlation. If one variable increases, the other variable will increase as well. While if this variable decreases, the other variable will decrease as well. That is positive correlation. Both variables will go to the same direction. However, negative correlation happens if one variable increases while the other variable decreases, and vice versa, if one variable decreases and the other variable increases. Or I can say negative correlation happens when both variables go to the opposite direction. A way to know the correlation is using scatter diagram. What is scatter diagram? Scatter diagram is a chart that portrays the relationship between two variables. This is the example of scatter diagram. The first variable is promotional budget and the second variable is the sales. We put the promotional budget in the X while the sales in the Y. We plot all the data in the diagram or in the chart. Therefore, we can see the correlation between promotional budget and also the sales. As I mentioned previously, based on the direction, the correlation can be positive or negative, or even there is no correlation. This is the example of the chart of the positive correlation, negative correlation, and no correlation. As I mentioned previously, positive correlation happens when one variable increases, the other variable increases as well. While negative correlation happens when both variables go to the opposite direction. Well, if there is no pattern in the graph, it means there is no correlation. It has been clear, right, regarding the direction of the correlation. Right now, how to know whether the correlation is strong, moderate, or weak? We can know from the correlation coefficient. One more time, correlation coefficient or small r. The correlation coefficient or small r range between -1 into 1. So it is impossible if the correlation coefficient is 2.3 minus 2.3 because it only ranges between -1 up to 1. If the correlation coefficient is 0, it means there is no correlation. If the correlation coefficient is positive, it means they have positive correlation. If the correlation coefficient is negative, they have negative correlation. This is how we interpret the strength of the correlation. If the absolute of the correlation close to 0, they have weak correlation. So 0.1, 0.2, minus 0.1, minus 0.2, they have weak correlation. If the absolute coefficient correlation close to 0.5, they have moderate correlation. So for example, 0.45, 0.5, 0.55, minus 0.44, minus 0.45, and so on. However, if the absolute of the coefficient correlation close to 1, they have strong correlation. However, if the coefficient correlation is 1 or minus 1, they have perfect correlation. So, for example, the coefficient correlation is 0.8, we can say they have strong positive correlation. If the correlation coefficient is minus 0.3, we can say they have weak negative correlation. Is it clear, right? The question is that how can we know the coefficient correlation? Of course, we have to calculate it. But to make it easier, we can use Spss. Now, how to find correlation coefficient in Spss? For example, I have this data. So I have x1 and also y1. I want to check the correlation coefficient between x1 and also y1. Since it is primary data and there are several indicators to find the x1, So there is x1.1, x1.2, x1.3, x1.4. So does y1. There are y1.1, y1.2, y1.3, y1.4. To get the correlation coefficient, we need to find the x1 average and also the y1 average. And then we can copy the x1 average and y1 average only in the SPSS. We paste, we delete this, and we change the variable name. This is x1 average, and this is the y1 average. Don't forget to put the measure, it is scale. And then the step is analyze, correlate, bivariate. It is the same step when you want to check the validity. You move x1 average and y1 average to the right and then OK. You can see here there is Pearson correlation. Pearson correlation is the small r or the correlation coefficient. Okay, so the correlation coefficient between x1 and x1, it is 1, perfectly correlated. Of course, this variable is compared with this variable, the correlation will be 1. Okay, yeah? But the correlation between x1 and y1, we can find this is 0.422. Okay, the correlation 0.422. We also can see here from y1 average to x1 average, it is the same, yeah, 0.422. It means the correlation between x1 and also y1 is moderate because it is close to 0.5 and positive correlation. One more time, the correlation between x1 and y1 is moderate positive correlation. If you can see here, there is seek to tilt here. This is the p-value. Okay, this is the p-value. If it is less than significance level, the significance level usually 0.05, it means the correlation is significant. But if it is more than 0.05, the correlation is not significant. By the way, there is important thing. There is a term we call as spurious correlation. One more time, spurious correlation. Spurious correlation is two variables that are statistically related to each other, but actually the relationship is merely coincidental. Yes, it is possible to happen that two variables are statistically correlated, but actually in the real life, it is not correlated at all. This chart portrays the example of spurious correlation. You can see there are two lines, the black line also the red lines. The black lines and red lines are statistically correlated. You can see if the black line goes up, the red line also goes up. If the black line goes down, the red line also goes down. But actually, do you know what is red line, what is black line? The black line is the Google search for this is Spss, and the red line is Lululemon's stock price. Yes, statistically they are correlated, but in the real life there is no relation between the Google search for this is Spss and also Lululemon's stock price. It is not logical. Therefore, beware of spurious correlation.